Very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candy Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evan Sokinyi. I'm glad that you're here with us. I'm here with Wakili Willie Sotieno. Wakili, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Yes.
I've seen a lot of political meetings taking place in the country. And of course, we saw the homecoming of Fred Matiang'I, the former Interior CS. We also saw what happened the Central. People are wondering what is really happening here. Well, we want to have this conversation here, but then before we get there, I've also seen that it's like the State House has been allocated another 2.3 billion for renovations again. What is really happening in this country?
Why are you surprised? But that is typical of William Ruto. They've been renovating State House since he went into office. They should have stopped renovating. They should have just built a new State House at this rate. Because those are just conduits to siphon public money. And we should not even waste time discussing William Ruto's State House, because that is now typical. Every year, they allocate money for renovations. Then when they come up with what they've renovated, some ugly structures that is full of gypsum with no character, they call that is renovation. Those are just conduits to siphon public money. There's no good that comes out of those things they're doing.
Okay.
And you spend all that money on one building, which is already functional, has been in use, and yet you ignore Kenyatta National Hospital. You ignore Mudavadi district. Why not go and renovate Kenyatta National Hospital if you really cared about the people of Kenya? What is the priority? The health of these millions of Kenyans who use Kenyatta, or the comfort of one individual who sleeps in State House with his family? But that is Kenya Kwanza for you.
Okay.
And Kenyans can see through this. If they put that 5 billion, 2.8 billion they want to spend on State House to renovate Kenyatta National, it will change in terms of access to quality healthcare services to many Kenyans. But they can't do it. Okay. Spend that money to buy diagnostic machines for cancer, buy dialysis machines for people who are suffering from kidney failures. They can't do that. They don't care about Kenyans, they care about themselves.
Quite unfortunate therein. Let's wait whether that will also happen. And of course, maybe Kenyans are in agreement that the president actually values more of his comfort. Let's get political straight away. You are still insisting that elections are next year, 2026.
The Constitution insists elections are done in the 5th year, on the 2nd Tuesday in August, in the 5th year.
Okay.
That is what the Constitution insists. I'm just but a student of the Constitution. I'm a follower of the Constitution. And fidelity to the Constitution requires that elections 2026, August 2026. Okay. Anybody with a contrary view, come for debate.
Okay. Let's get there. Of course, the most looked at position here, the one that actually gets a lot of focus, is the presidential one. Of course, we believe that you'll be on at the ballot, whether it's next year, 2026 or 2027, so to say. But then here we are. Fred Matiang'I has sent some shockwaves down there. Do you believe that his entry into this race, this particular round, is more of a threat to even the establishment that is there and maybe the opposition that has been existing?
What's the difference between Fred Matiang'I and William Ruto? They're all in Jubilee. Yeah. What has Ruto done that Matiang'I has not done? Okay. Abductions happened. When Ruto has done abductions of young people, Matiang'I has abducted people before. Enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings. Ruto's regime killed the young people here last year. Matiang'i's regime, we saw how many people killed in Rigathi. So what's the difference? In legal debts were taken during Matiang'i's time as the coordinator of national government. Ruto is taking in legal debts. So there's no difference between William Ruto and Matiang'I. They're the same. But of course, they will, his presence will cause some stir in some quarters.
Okay.
But there's no difference. The two can even form a coalition by the way, and seamlessly work together.
So you're saying that for you, you see them as birds of a feather?
But they are. Where's the difference? They were part of Jubilee. I've always told you here, the problem of this country is Jubilee. Jubilee that mutated from one corona to Delta virus and Omicron virus variant. That is what we are dealing with here. So I don't see how Matiang'I is a replacement to William Ruto. It's the same.
Okay. You say that the buck stops with the president. Why would the atrocities committed during the Uhuru Kenyatta regime be loaded on the interior CS?
The interior CS was the one who is the command of the police. And he was even to add to his feather, he was the coordinator of national government at the time. The so-called prime minister, so to speak. So he must take responsibility. Even if the buck stops the president, doesn't mean that everybody down the chain is exonerated. They are all part of it. And they all take individual responsibilities for that which happened. The docket was Matiang'i's docket. And we must be ruthless and truthful to Matiang'i and his supporters. The fact that we want to remove William Ruto from office does not mean that we remove William Ruto and retain Rutoism. And if Matiang'i and Ruto both benefited from the Jubilee messes or were part of that mess, how will that be a change? How will that be different? But it is right to contest. And maybe he has changed. He has learned from his erroneous ways when he was in office.
Okay.
Because did you not see how DCI Kinoti was very arrogant here, killing Kenyans and even those Indians who were killed? And no action was taken on them. I mean, we have to be serious. We are not going to uproot one system and replace with the same system. We can as well just continue with what we have and deal with the entire system once and for all. But it is good that Matiang'i and any formations that are part of Jubilee, they come out. Then we can put all of them on one side and comprehensively deal with this problem, systemic problem we have at once. Because otherwise, these systems know how to mutate, they know how to camouflage, and know how to rebirth themselves as if they're new. But it's still the same old system. And Kenyans must or need to have a genuine conversation of all political leaders or anybody aspiring for political office. Everybody must be called to account.
Okay.
If you've been involved in extrajudicial killings and you don't put closure to that, you owe us an explanation. If you've been involved in enforced disappearances of Kenyans when you're in office, you owe us an explanation. Otherwise, you'll be removing Ruto and giving birth to another Ruto.
Senator, the case is Senator Richard Onyonka says, look, nobody is a saint in this country. So therefore, the atrocities that were committed during that particular regime cannot be put on an individual and cannot actually bar former CS Fred Matiang'i from vying.
Nobody bars him from buying, but also nobody bars Kenyans from asking the critical questions. Okay. It is right to vie, but also the right of Kenyans to ask the critical questions about him and his conduct when he was in office. That one we cannot deny anybody. And who said we must elect devils?
Okay.
Yeah. We are over 50 million Kenyans. If only a cabral of less than 1,000 people have been doing these legalities, criminalities, who says that is our condemnation, that you can only choose from that pool? There are others. We are here as Safina Party. I've never held any public office. I've never superintended over any killings or enforced disappearances. I'm here offering myself to contest for political office. And there are many other Kenyans out here who have not done it. So who said our choices are limited to only those ones? Are we that condemned?
Some believe that better the devil, than the angel.
It's okay. If you want to continue with the demonic things, then continue even with Ruto.
Okay.
It's the same. Yeah. I've told you Matiang'i and Ruto can easily form a coalition. Wamunyoro used to speak here, rising up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to the office to cheer as Kenyans are being killed. You think those are the saviors of these people, of this nation? No. They are part of this system. In fact, if Ruto gave them a handshake, they will all run there. But it's the duties on Kenyans to open their eyes. So that if you want real change, then the choices are very clear. If you don't want real change, you can continue with the old politicians, the legacy politicians. They are there in plenty.
Okay.
In fact, there are more than the seats available. That is why some of them are in office, some of them are in the opposition. They are there in plenty. If you want more of the same, continue. That's your choice as a Kenyan. But if you want to uproot this system, then we must consider people who have not been part of that system. People are not part of the mark. Otherwise, we'll be here complaining every year. But at least for us as Safina, we've offered ourselves as an alternative leadership to challenge this status quo that has caused us this economic pain, that has superintended over the killings of our young people, the forced disappearance of our young people, that does not demand for accountability when the system turns against its people. That is what we represent, the opposite of.
Wakili, being part of the opposition, we expected to see you, and of course you talked about Wamunyoro here, we expected to see you in that particular event in Wamunyoro. You were nowhere.
Okinyi, I told you, It is not just enough to say William Ruto must go. You must ask yourself what next. What brings the opposition together?
Yes.
Is it just the quest for William Ruto to go? Because going is going. That I've always told you. He's going. But what's next? Is it to create positions for ourselves? So we remove William Ruto as an individual, but then now you put Rutolites in those offices. The problems will be the same. The only coalition we are going to form as Safina Party is a coalition on the people of Kenya. A coalition of the people of Kenya. That the number one issue is how to reduce the cost of living. How to give people economic, ease the economic burden. That's the only coalition we can form. But if you are just forming a coalition for the sake of removing Ruto and replacing him with other Kenyans, what's the need then? You don't just go at it because you're all in opposition, now you go and... But if we're having a meeting to discuss, okay, we are reducing the VAT on fuel from 16% to 5% or zero rated. That is a coalition that will form very quickly. We are doing an audit of our public debt. And as we are doing that, we are stopping all illegal debt payments. That's a coalition will form very quickly. But just to remove William Ruto alone is not the problem. It's just the face of the problem today. You remove him, without dealing with the problem, the next person will have the same problem. So we'll be going again and so must go. So I'm sorry, you will not see us in that gatherings. I will not go.
Okay.
Even if I'm going to campaign alone, I'll campaign alone. But at least I'll take the conscience of so many Kenyans, which I believe many Kenyans are asking these critical questions. All they want is just a champion.
Okay. Do you think the opposition may be actually shooting themselves on the foot? Because if you look at the face that was presented there, people are there, people of questionable characters, people who've been in the government of William Ruto, and of course, they've been put out, and right now they're on the call, but they've come out to actually campaign against the president.
It is their right to campaign against him. They're also Kenyans.
Okay.
They have fundamental rights. It's also the right of Kenyans to accept or reject them. And who say they're the only opposition? Why do you want to try to label them as the opposition to William Ruto?
Of course, it's a section of the
It's
opposition.
just a section of the opposition. There are others like myself who is not in that group. Also doing our duty and offering ourselves alternative leadership. And the Kenyan people will decide. If they want to continue with the mark, you have plenty of choices. William Ruto is there, continuing. You have Wamunyoro and Matiang'I, continuing with what Jubilee started. And if you want change, we are here as Safina Party. We have not been in Jubilee in any shape or form. You can easily say we are not part of that mark. And drain the swamp, uproot the system, free the Kenyan. That is who we are. But anybody who wants to continue with the same problem, you have plenty choices to pick from.
Can you authoritatively confirm here that you do not have any intention whatsoever to work with the faces that we've seen at one?
We don't have any intention to work with people for the sake of giving people positions. No. Our intention is to work for the people of Kenya. And if you are to sign any coalition, I'm telling you, number one, you'll see the question of tax. The coalition agreement on tax. Number two, on public debt. It will be purely on the economy. And our promises will be things that people can carry home on their own. They can implement on their own without looking up to government. If you say reduce tax from 16% VAT on fuel to 5% as the coalition agreement, on that day, you are the taxpayer. Just compute your machine, put it 5% VAT on fuel. That was the agreement. You don't have to wait for government. That is what we believe in. Economic liberation and economic independence to the people of Kenya. Not seats to those who lived off taxpayers' money for over 20 years.
Certain political analysts and commentators are looking at yourself and of course Honorable Jimmy Wanjigi, and they're like, these people are actually doing the right thing, enlightening the people on what is happening in the country, more of engaging with the citizenry on a daily basis, telling them, look, this is where the problem is. But they're saying that in this country things are different. Therefore, you cannot actually enlighten people and enlighten your way to power through that.
It's okay.
What do you have to say?
Even when Jesus started evangelizing, he only had 10 disciples, 12 disciples. And the gospel is spoken until today. Yeah. Who said we must use the same template that the legacy politicians have used? Then you can as well be part of them. We'll do it differently. We'll talk to the people, and we'll offer ourselves. Because as we believe that we're new times, times have changed. The times of legacy politics is over. This is the time for economic liberation. And you can't use the old templates to achieve these new targets. You will not. So it's so natural for Manyora and Matiang'Is to go and use the templates that were used before. Because they're legacy politicians. We are not legacy politicians. As we are economic liberators, we are fighting a freedom war to liberate this economy from the system that has enslaved the people of Kenya over the years. That's the big difference between us and them.
Okay. So finally, we expect that President William Ruto will definitely run again. And then if at all you don't unite with the other section of opposition, then we expect that you would go alone. The rest will also have their own. Did you see this kind of a divided opposition going to give the current president some sort of a...
Remember that at the end of the day, it's 50% plus 1.
Okay.
50% plus 1. That is the victory margin. So if William Ruto controls half the country, whether the opposition is united or not, he will win. The division of the opposition is immaterial.
Okay.
Somebody must attain 50% plus 1. So
okay.
You can be united and all get 30% of the vote. You can be divided and get 64% of the vote. So still, you cannot win.
Okay.
Yeah. You can be united and you only get 30% of the votes cast.
In your unity.
In your unity. Or you can be divided and as a united group, you control 80% of the vote. He needs 50% plus 1. How will he win? You can't help him. You're also just part of the division. Ultimately, the person who is elected gets 50% plus 1.
And you don't believe that would be President William Ruto this time?
He can't. He can't.
Okay.
Where will he get it from?
Why not?
Where?
He's talking
from
to
where?
the people.
It's okay. From where? Run your own poll here today on this show. Let's see if he gets 50% plus 1. I'll be shocked if he gets even 30%. He can't. It's the same Kenyans I interact with. They're the voters. There's no special group of Kenyans that vote apart from the ones that we see every day that are listening to us here. The same group of Kenyans. The unanimity that William Ruto is gone. The conversation is who is next. Who next are we putting there? Not whether he can be re-elected.
Okay. Let's wait and see. Meanwhile, your gospel is still 2026. So you
Election
expect
2026.
to be...
Election 2026. That's the constitutional gospel.
You expect to be in State House next year.
Election 2026.
Election 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, weigh in and tell us what you actually think about the new face of opposition, and whether you think that the entry of former CAs, of course, Fred Matiang'I, would actually add some value to that kind of opposition, and would they actually bring some sort of a formidable force to President William Ruto? And of course, we expect to see Wakili Willis Otieno and Jimmy Wanjigi on the ballot in 2027. Let's wait and see what happens. Till then, allow me to stop for now till we have this conversation again. Have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.